Hello. So I planted some apple trees early summer, which you probably shouldn't do. You should probably aim for early spring. But I didn't have a choice because I moved into my house late. And so I wanted to get some apple trees started, especially these varieties that I picked. And so I'm going to record this progress just for my own records and then for other people that it may benefit on how to take care of apple trees when you plant them late. So maybe early summer or even the middle of summer. Come join me in the chaos. All right, so this first one's a gala. And I already have some in my yard, some apple trees, but they're just generic crab apple trees. So over here, crab apple. This is actually Asian pear, crab apple, Asian pear. And then I think that's a Granny Smith. And then another crab apple. And I think they were just wild type. So the one that I think is a Granny Smith might just be a randomly improved variety of wild apples. So this is going to be fun because what I plan on doing is taking these improved ones. So here's a gala. I believe it's Buckeye gala to be exact. I don't know how that differs from regular gala, or if all galas are Buckeye. I don't really know. This one's a Fuji. It's a Mutsu, and I believe that was a Red Delicious. So what I plan on doing, once these get established, I'm going to cut some scions out of these. So basically I'm going to take some material from this tree and I'm going to graft it into some of these other ones. So I'm going to start pruning down, cutting down these crab apple trees. When I say cutting down, I mean, removing some branches from them. And I'm going to start grafting in branches from these improved ones. And I'd like to make all of them have like a variety of apples. So for example, I'll take a scion from this one. So a Gala scion, a Fuji scion, a Mutsu scion, and then I'll graft those scions into, sorry, I have a cold or something. I'll graft those scions into the crab apple trees. And as those grafts take, I'll start removing non-improved wood from the apple trees until eventually the top half of these apple trees is going to be improved apple trees. And this is an experiment I kind of wanted to do because a lot of people recommend doing this early in the tree's life. And these apple trees are, 5 to 10 years old. And so I'm kind of curious if you can just go in and start removing wood, if you do it slowly, and start grafting in scions, and then just remove wood that's not the scions over time, and eventually convert these trees into improved trees. So it's going to be a fun little project. I'll probably do the project over the next few years. So I guess this is video one in my quest to convert my crab apple trees into improved varieties. But anyway, these are going to be my host trees. And of course the host trees are going to just remain as they are, getting bigger and bigger over time. I planted these about, I think it was mid-June. So like I said, early summer, late spring. Usually you don't want to do that just because it takes a lot of water and resources to get apple trees established, or any fruit tree for that matter. And you want to do that before summer starts, especially if you have dry summers. And in Missouri, we have pretty wet springs and dry summers, so it's kind of silly to wait. But I didn't have a choice because I just bought my house in June, so I kind of had to do what I had to do. So if you're in that boat, planting apple trees late, you're probably going to have to use more water than you think. Once they get rooted in pretty deep, you don't really have to water them if you're somewhere that has a water table that's less than, say, 50 feet deep. They should be able to just get moisture from the soil with their deeper roots and just keep themselves hydrated. Once they're fruiting, though, I've heard that it's still best to water them at least once a week just to make sure they have sufficient water to produce a good crop. But again, that's just stuff that I've read. It's not from experience yet. So I'll have more information on that once I actually have experience growing apple trees. I have lots of experience with citrus and grapes, just not much experience with apple specifically. So that's going to be fun. You can kind of tell all the new growth. Notice the color. And as the color gets a little bit aged, it'll just start looking a little bit more like this. And hopefully not like these, I have a few skeletonized leaves in here. I just started coming out here and just smashing the little beetles. And now there's not beetles anymore. There's a ton in my backyard though. But I've noticed if you have one, that one will attract a ton. So you just have to make sure you have zero. And if you have 0 Japanese beetles, then I found from my experience that I continue having 0. But the moment I have 1, then I quickly have 10, and then 20, and then 100. So just got to keep on it. I just check on them a few times a day. But yeah, it's a bad year for Japanese beetles. So in a sense, it's a bad year to start an apple orchard. So for me, this is going to be a fun project to practice my grafting. I've done a little bit of grafting, just playing around with grapevines. I'm doing a lot more just because I have so much more land now that I have an acre. So along these edges, I have tons of apple trees. Down there, a bunch of pear trees. Over here, half apple, half pear. And then I'm gonna have more apple here. And then over time, I'm gonna be experimenting with creating rootstock. So this particular crabapple tree right here produces a ton of suckers, ton of apple suckers right out of the ground. So I'm going to experiment with extracting those suckers from the ground to see if they have roots on them, and then maybe experimenting with rootstock, and then maybe just taking some of these scions and just grafting them right onto these suckers just to create a bunch of improved apple trees. I don't know if that's common practice, but it's going to be an experiment. It's going to be fun, kind of fun to play around with. And these are pretty decent sized crab apples too, so I'm excited to turn these into jam. They're kind of pretty, and they're pretty good size too. 3/4 inch across. So it's beautiful though. Yesterday we got about an inch of rain, which is pretty good. The last, I would say 5 or 6 times it rained, we probably only got, say, less than 1/4 inch of rain. But yeah, just yesterday alone, we got an inch of rain. It was pretty insane. So the grass just feels very happy under my feet. And all the plants are gonna be happy too. And it was kind of getting annoying walking around with a hose, watering these things a couple times a week just to make sure they don't dry out. So I'm hoping that water keeps this area hydrated for a while. It's been pretty hot this summer. No, I'm sure not just in Missouri, I'm sure all over the country it's been pretty hot. I've heard people complaining about the heat. And this hole right here is gonna get filled in. Thinking about chopping down this Asian pear. I'm gonna experiment with grafting apple onto pear. I've heard you can do it. See how successful it is. If it's not successful, I'm just gonna have to remove this Asian pear, or I might just graft some improved pears into the Asian pear. I don't really like these wild Asian pears as much as I like wild crab apples. A lot of people tell me crab apples are sour. I mean, compared to, you know, stop talking for a minute from the motorcycle. I might cut that, I might not. Compared to, you know, Red Delicious, obviously they're sour, but compared to Sour Patch Kids candy, crab apples aren't really that sour. So I guess it depends on your threshold for what you think is unpalatable in terms of sour. But I really enjoy things like crab apples and what are those plums called? Ornamental plum trees with the dark leaves. I can't remember what they're called, but people used to tell me they're ornamental, and I think those things are delicious. So I usually don't take other people's words for what are considered not edible or not, you know, not palatable, because I like sour stuff. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. Let me know in the comments if you're working on getting apple trees started a little late in the season. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Successes, failures. Let me know. Thanks for watching.